adventure capitalist, split, and a games jam. This is Staying In. I went back to, I suppose, my kind of primal, manly kind of roots. And what I did on Saturday, gentlemen, was picture yourselves this. A sheet of ice. A sheet of ice. I'm at the bottom of this, wearing a helmet with a visor to protect myself from the fragments of ice that keep raining down. I look down on my feet. Some heavy boots with crampons on them, these sharp spikes sticking out.
With croutons?
I'm
with
wearing
what?
full croutons, crampons.
With his shoes with croutons on them.
Yes, that's it, exactly,
parmesan.
Pete. Toasted fragments of bread on my
Sounds
toes.
delicious.
Wearing
So you learn a
thermal
new
gear,
thing every day.
gloves in my hands, like 2 ice axes, one in each hand, and I scale this sheet of ice. Yeah, that was where I was.
You should know, Chris. In my mind,
Yeah.
I'm imagining the sheet of ice that you're climbing is similar in size to the wall in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's exactly
That's how I'm imagining it.
I mean, I trained for it. I just completed, as you know, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Sure.
Yeah. You had some great kind of thumb strength.
Oh, incredible. Yeah, incredible. Well, I mean, my thumbs down. Never been as dexterous as they are now.
He didn't even need the pickaxes. He just stuck his thumbs in the ice.
That's it, literally. It was brilliant. I didn't go alone, though. It was actually, I was invited by our colleague and friend, Sam, who unfortunately is gutted that he can't be here tonight because he's really keen to present his side of the story, his version of events, which for some strange reason don't chime with mine. Basically, yeah, Dan, you're thinking it's the wall. When Sam told me that he'd got this ice climbing booked, I pictured, somewhere like Iceland, or Norway, a sheet of, a mountain that would be scaled.
He was flying you to Norway.
Yeah, well, we got as far as Manchester, Deansgate, and a place called Vertical Chill. Anyway, we got the wrong premises to start off with. We walked into what appeared to be a building society. That clearly wasn't it. Even the radiators were on. Thought, no, this can't be it.
Did you go up to the counter, hand over some money and say, could I have some croutons, please?
I can't climb without my croutons. So basically what it is, it's a sports shop where you can buy your hats and your thermals and stuff. And almost like a museum, I suppose like a glass kind of window that you look through into kind of like a museum's kind of exhibition. Inside, it's like an empty aquarium, is this wall of ice they've made, and it stretches up quite high. And we walked in with this guy who instructed us, and we took it in turns to climb it one at a time. And it was really good fun. This was proper. To start off with, we were proper badass. We were jamming our toes in really hard, and then really whacking the surface with our pickaxe. And afterwards, the guy was like, "Yeah, you don't need to do that. You just need to kind of rest them because there's enough holes in there anyway." I was like, "Oh, okay."
That's no fun.
But so we did a bit of both, and Sam went up, and I forgot that Sam has a slight fear of heights. Right. It must be slight because he wouldn't have done this otherwise. Yeah. And he was getting a little bit annoyed by the fact that as he was halfway up this rock face, this ice wall, me and the bloke were just chatting. Because we had this really interesting conversation. I was telling him about in World War II, there was a thing called Operation Habakkuk, where this is a true story. The Allies were dabbling with the idea of making battleships out of ice and sawdust.
Right.
There was this thing called pykrete, incredibly hard and incredibly tough. And the plan would be that, if it got a hole, you just fill it with ice water. And I'm chatting to this bloke about it, and he's telling me about
Hang on. If there was a hole in the boat, you'd fill the boat with water.
Ice water. So it would just freeze back up now.
So or water?
Well, it's ice water mixed with sawdust, which makes it go incredibly hard and incredibly tough.
Okay, because I just imagine someone at the bottom of the boat trying to fill a hole by pouring water on it, which something tells me wouldn't work.
But the boat's made of ice. It's not like they're plugging in like a normal ocean liner. But anyway, so we were chatting about this. He was telling me about the mosquito planes, made of plywood and stuff, light material and stuff. And we were having this lovely chat, and he's belaying Sam. He's the bottom, turning to me, and Sam's like, "Oh, guys," because Sam's climbing up there, and he felt really self-conscious that I was just having this kind of lovely kind of chat with this bloke. And it was really funny because they had to keep the ice wall super cooled, obviously, and at intervals they turn on these fans, and it just happened to be the moment they turned on this fan was when Sam was one ice pick away from the top, and he leans out and goes to plant his last ice pick, and the fan goes and Sam nearly shat himself, basically. And yeah, so we did that. We did traversing, and the guy said, "I'm going to make it hard for you now." I said, "Okay, what is it going to be? 1 axe?" He said, "Yeah." So, okay,
great.
So Sam just turns to me, just, why did you say that?
Yeah, like, of course you did this.
You have to hold your pickaxe with your foot.
Yeah. So we did it 1 axe with 1 axe, which was quite cool. It was great, and felt proper kind of like quite badass. I mean, ignoring the fact that it's in like a sports shop in the middle of Manchester, for that brief moment, you kind of felt like proper kind of adventurous. Pete, you'd love it. I mean, the testosterone. I mean, it's just incredible.
I'd fight someone. That's
off
the
scale. Yeah,
I'd punch someone's face in, I think.
Was there applause when you returned to base camp?
Well, we had our partners are watching us, and we're expecting them to kind of just be.
Oh right, so you're showing off.
See, that's it. It all makes sense now.
This incredible display.
Yeah.
Chris with his 1 pickaxe. No, I've got this.
I've been jamming. I went to the Global Game Jam 2017 in Bristol at the PM Studios, which is, if you're not familiar, a game jam is where people traditionally from game development get together in a room over a short period of time, usually 48 hours, and they decide to make a game within groups. So they're not, you don't get like 25 people in a room, they're all making this one game. You have you might meet a coder and you're a designer, and then you meet an artist, and then you go, hey, should we make the game? And then you go, yeah, let's make the game, and then you make the game. And you make a game based on a theme. So the idea is to encourage collaboration and experimentation and networking and just having a fun time, basically. This isn't
the first game jam you've done, is it?
No, I did one last year as well, and so this year's theme was waves, and the team that I entered was kind of the same idea as the team I entered last year, which was that I like entering teams that have non-traditional development skills, which is a very fancy pants way of saying people who don't actively make games but are interested in making games. So while I am technically a quote unquote developer, because I'm a producer, I'm not involved in the, I don't draw, I don't really do audio, I don't really do coding. Well, I certainly don't do coding. I'm involved in some elements of the design, but I'm not a designer. I don't sit down and go, right, how does this very complex system work? That's not me. I sort of facilitate in making games happen, and basically stick my oar in where it's not required.
It's the Wellington way.
It's the Wellington way, and so I decided to field, as I say, a team of non-developers. So there was myself. There was a friend of the show, Danny Russell, who is the community manager for mobile at Sega. There was Mark Brown, who is a very successful YouTuber who does Game Maker's Toolkit. There was Oscar Deus, who is a staff writer for GameSpot, and there was Alex Bertram Powell, who is a fine artist, graphic designer, and a musician for a band called Boxcar Aldous Huxley here in Bristol. He's also one of the finest theremin players in the world. You know theremin?
Yeah, my colleague plays it.
Yeah, it's a very, very tricky music. Basically, if you don't know what it is, then basically you there's essentially like 2 points. I think they're 2 bars, and depending on where you place your hand within the bars, you get a different sound. It's like what you get with Doctor Who.
I think I've seen Bill Bailey play
one of his short.
You get a lot of spooky sounds.
It's
like
very
that's
radiophonic
workshop
kind of stuff.
Yeah. So he plays that. He's one of the greatest theremin players in the world. It's quite a specialist instrument, obviously, but it's really impressive. So all of those people love games, and they were like, yeah, cool, let's make a game. And it was the same that I did last year. I fielded a non-development team last year as well. So this year we made a text adventure. We made a very straightforward text adventure in Twine 2. For those who know anything about Twine, it was in Harlow, which is a specific sort of wing of Twine 2, and it's a text adventure. It's basically a choose your own adventure, escape the room kind of thing. So, game books,
old school. Yeah, I know game books. Yeah, we talked about it on previous shows. Your fascination game books. Yeah,
of course.
And it kind of harkens back to those kind of choose your own adventure stories when you were younger. It's come across.
It's exactly that, and when we made an escape the room game based on where all the puzzles were based on waves, so we did that, and yeah, it was really, really exciting. It was a very fun experience. Again, I'm glad that we did the non-dev thing again, because I really appreciate being able to encourage people who don't normally make games to think about games a little bit in a bit of a different way. So obviously, most of us are very, very entrenched and steeped in video games, but how you actually go ahead and practically make a very simple one is quite a different proposition, and I think it gives a lot more clarity to how complex it is to make very large video games. We also worked with somebody who was at the PM studio. She's like a resident, and she was kind of like really interested in. She came over and she was like lending us a hand and stuff like that. And then she was kind of on the project and off the project. She was kind of doing her own thing, and then she went off and she actually made her own game of her own that weekend. She worked by herself. Like, she spent 4 or 5 hours, and she went off and made her own thing. And she doesn't, from what conversations I had with her, she doesn't seem particularly massively into games and stuff, but she made her own game. And I think that's really.
I mean, could I walk off the street and do this? Do I have to? Do I have to have a particular background in order to be accepted at this, or is it inclusive just for any average Joe to walk in as well?
That's the thing. So that's why I do this non-developer team, because absolutely yes, Chris. You could sign up for the Global Game Jam in your area. I'm sure they'll do in Liverpool and up in Manchester, and they definitely have them in London and such. But I think there is a subconscious barrier that people have where they go, I'm not a developer, ergo I'm not going to join the Global Game Jam and get involved. And actually, jams are really, really good opportunities for people who don't make games to make games and see the process and see how it's like. Because there's no games are quite often a commercial endeavour, and so you obviously wouldn't get involved because there's no money to, you don't have to do it because there's money and all that sort of stuff. So you wouldn't get hired into a studio. And if you're going to do it by yourself, it can be really, really off-putting. Not only do you have to do, the coding and the logic and the art and the design and the production. You've got to do so many different elements of the thing, and you just think, actually, no, I want to focus on one particular area that I'm interested in. So that's why that non-developer thing, I think, works quite well, because it sort of encourages people who don't necessarily have those skills to actually go, do you know what? Yeah, I'd love to make a game. So, you know what, Chris? Don't just walk in off the street. I mean, you do have to book a ticket, but don't just walk in the street. But maybe come to Bristol next year and come and make a game with me. I mean, Dan, you're more than invited as well.
Oh wow, that sounded amazing. So how many hours were you jamming for? Did you have a time limit?
The event is open for 48 hours. The event site that we use is the PM Studio, and which is part of the Watershed in Bristol. Lovely place. And that site is not open 48 hours, which actually works really well, because I personally am a big fan of not encouraging people to industry. But at the same time, it's quite fun, and it is your own free time and stuff. So I can totally see why GGJ runs 48-hour things. But yeah, you technically have a 48 desks, and they bring in pizzas and all that sort of stuff. But we went home each night at 10 or 11 o'clock, and we got food out and stuff. And yeah, sorry.
Can we play your game?
Yeah, you can absolutely play the game. You can go to globalgamejam.org. That is the official site, and then you can basically search by locations, and you can go to Bristol PM Studios thing, and then you can see all the games that were made during that jam. And believe you me, there are some amazing things there, absolutely wonderful things.
What's your game called?
Ours was called Volny, which is Russian for wave.
But I'm impressed with you, Pete, for the Game and Jam stuff, considering you've told us in the past that you are a man of no imagination.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, Dan, the title of the game was just the theme of the entire Games Jam, but just translated to Russian.
Yeah.
So
I've not exactly worked miracles, but yeah, it was great. Like, I really, really enjoyed it, and I would totally do it again. And yeah, you guys should get involved next year.
Yeah, that sounds like what a great team that you were working with. What a brilliant team.
Yeah, really cool team. Like, very diverse in terms of like where they are in the industry, and the actual like event itself was quite diverse as well. Like, it was really great to have like lots of women and like people of different ages and backgrounds and so on. And yeah, it was a really, really cool event.
It reminds me of the time when, Peter, you lived in that freezing cold apartment in Bristol. Do you remember? When I helped you move in at 11 o'clock at night.
The penthouse?
Pete House, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I never stayed there.
Oh, it's incredible. Like, my favourite bit was when we were moving you in at about, like, it was about 11 o'clock at night. And we dumped the boxes, and you go to turn on the light switch. And we realised, Dan, that there wasn't any lights. There was no light at all plugged in. There was no actual ceiling light. So Pete was like, "Well, the next trip, we'll bring the lamp with us."
Yeah.
And that was
Pete, only you would look at a place and not notice the lack of light.
Well,
walk in and say, "Yeah, this looks good." I know there's no light fixtures, but it's fine.
Saw it during the day, and also it's kind of like a thing that you assume, right? Like, you assume that a house is going to have lights. You don't look for you don't like when you're looking for a new place. You don't specifically look for like wall socket fittings.
Yeah, it's not in the category with white goods.
No. To be fair, I probably would look at wall socket fittings because I would want to know where my stuff would go. So I would genuinely look at that stuff.
Well, you are a better prepared mover than I am. Well, I don't know. I think having lights in the ceiling is pretty standard feature at this point.
But you just went, there are walls, there's a window, I'm good.
Ticks the boxes. Yeah. It's basically Dan, his Minecraft building was more luxurious than this place.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we went back the next day, we met your landlord. Was it the landlord? No, it wasn't your landlord. He was the guy who managed the flat or whatever, caretaker. And we went in this lift, Anne, and this lift was very, very cosy, extremely cosy. Like, the three of us got in this lift, and our faces were like a centimetre from each other. What did the guy call the lift? He
called it a coffin on a rope.
That was it.
That's what
which was very, very encouraging.
And
I was like, okay.
But we knew, Pete, you were suffering in that flat. It was incredibly cold, and we all rallied round together. And for your birthday, which is in the winter time, we all thought it'd be a good idea to buy you gifts that would prepare you for the cold element.
Because you're very thoughtful, like that.
We are the gift that keeps on giving. We've got you back. Yeah.
I remember you recording podcasts wrapped in kind of blankets and coats and stuff.
Yeah. It was it was great in the summer. Like, the view was incredible and the balcony was wonderful, but the inch gap between the two pieces of window on the balcony window was really quite a bummer during winter.
What floor were you on? Was it like the ninth?
9.
The 9th floor.
Yeah.
So your birthday,
best view of Bristol. That
birthday. I think. What did you get him for his birthday? Did you get him some thermals? Was that it, Dan? No, Sam got him thermals.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I got thermals from Sam. Yeah.
You bought him. Didn't you buy him a book on how to make sorbets?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I kind of lent into the cold.
Yeah. It was good lean.
And I bought you a hot water bowl. Job done.
Yeah, Chris. No, you bought me a hot water bowl with your face on it.
And not even like a portrait picture. It was extreme close up of Chris's face.
Chris's face. We still use that, Alex and I. We still take that to bed. We still snuggle up next to your face. Your face has been nearer my crotch on more regular occasions.
Don't end up. Don't finish.
I just love the fact. I just love the fact that when you get into bed with a hot water bowl, the first place it goes is your crotch.
Well,
excuse me.
I get cold feet in bed. That's where it usually goes. Not me crotch.
Yeah. When I was young, and this probably sounds a bit kind of like child abuse, but when I was young, back at home, my bedroom was at the back of the house, and
the shed.
The way it was is kind of my room was exposed kind of outside from two sides. So it was kind of hard brick wall, had it wasn't double glazed, so single glazed windows, and I'd be so cold that kind of the inside of my wall would be damp with condensation because of the extreme cold. Jeez. And I'd be lying in bed and I could see my breath, and I was that cold. Fortunately, eventually they kind of my parents gave me double glazing. It's like the happiest Christmas of my life.
It unwraps it. Yeah. Double glazing for Christmas. That's a lovely story, Dan.
That is nice, though.
Yeah.
Up until then, they're just giving you ready break.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Send me off to bed at night with some ready break.
Yeah, off you go.
Just smearing it over you.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be asleep before it wears off. Pete, you want to talk about a venture capitalist. As a result of that, I played it. Why is this such a special thing for you? I feel like this is a game I've played a lot in the past.
Adventure Capitalist. Well, it's the fact that you played a game like this a lot in the past, right? So, Adventure Capitalist, Kris, is what's called a clicker. Sometimes they're called cookie clickers. They are design masterclasses in addiction. So,
interesting.
Basically, what they are is they're all clickers tend to have the same fundamental core. I guess like any genre. So definitely think of it as a genre. You click on a thing, and a bar begins to fill. The bar fills, relatively quickly, and then you get one of that item in that bar.
Yeah.
Right. So then you click it again. You get two. Click it again. Click it again. Click it again. Maybe at this point you've got 10. Now at 10. You can afford to unlock the next thing. So you unlock the next thing, and whenever you click on the next item, it's actually worth 5. So every time the bar goes up, it's worth 5. And then you click on that and click on that, and you keep making sure that the one that you've been doing previously as well, you've also been clicking on that one. Then at some point, you've clicked this 5 one 10 times, so you've got 50 points. And 50 points allows you to buy a manager for the first thing. Now, so you hire the manager, and on the first item, you assign that manager to that item, whatever it is, and the item, you don't have to click that thing anymore. It just does it automatically. So the bar begins to fill automatically, and you get the money coming in. And it's this, and then there's additional things as well. You can upgrade those items to be worth more of those points or money or what have you, and that increases their multiplier, and you gain more money. So the whole thing in clickers is about generating lots of numbers. So there's no quote unquote gameplay. There's no it's not straightforward gameplay like a platformer or a shooter or something like that. It is very much UI driven. Click on the thing, see the bar go up, then you have more of the money and you reinvest it back into your business and do whatever. So Adventure Capitalist very much is about businesses. It's building out businesses. You are clicking on a thing, you generate the thing, you make the product. So the first thing that you get is a lemonade stand. You keep clicking on it, you produce more lemonade, you get more customers, and you get more money. Then you can unlock the next thing, which is I don't know, like a car wash or something like that. And you do that, and you hire absolutely. And then you hire managers to look after those businesses. It generates that funding automatically, and then you do those multipliers and all that sort of stuff. So clickers are kind of like one and the same, but they become design masterclasses in addiction when you get a really good one. And Adventure Capitalist is the kind of game that really just digs its claws into you, into that sense of addiction. It feeds on that thing of, I've got more money, I've got more of this thing, it means I can unlock the next step up. It's that satisfaction you get in unlocking things. I think people get it in Call of Duty when they do, when they're leveling up in the multiplayer, or when they prestige, they get this really big, adrenaline kick of, yes, this sort of, something in the brain clicks off and you get this pleasurable, I upgraded a meaningless number. And that is what clickers are all about, and that's what Adventure Capitalist is all about. It comes with this really cool visual style, 1940s, 1950s.
Yeah, I'm looking at images of it now.
Pip-Boy from Fallout,
Yeah.
that period of like super positivity, and you're a job creator, and you know all of that kind of chintzy, overly positive Americana 2D visual image from that period of time, and it's based around that, and there's lots of little silly jokes and that kind of stuff, and then as you're going through it, you get into silly amounts of numbers and stuff like that. You know, first of all, you'll be pleased that you've got $1,000 in the bank, and then towards the end, if you're not generating 8 quadrillion in an hour or whatever it is, like you just feel like, oh, I'm wasting my time. So the reason I've been playing it again, Dan, is because I played it on mobile a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is really, really good, and then didn't really have much time for it, even though I do really like cookie clickers. It's now out on PS4. It came out really recently on PlayStation 4. And I thought, a cookie clicker on console, that seems like a really, really bad fit. So I'm going to go and have a look at that, because I always find it really interesting when developers take a game genre that doesn't naturally sit on a platform and then try and make it work there. There's plenty of rubbish PlayStation 4 free-to-play games that have come over from mobile. Like, there are games that look a heck of a lot like Clash of Clans that are just rubbish. Like, they're just not enjoyable. They'd work so much better on mobile, just because the interface doesn't work for them and that kind of thing. And I thought that clickers would be the same, and certainly that Adventure Capitalist would be the same. And actually, it's the total opposite. I think it's fantastic on PlayStation 4. And the reason is the follows. It fits into a cycle, and this is what a lot of free-to-play games do really well. It fits into a play cycle that I have. So on mobile, when I used to play loads of free-to-play games, I still play a fair number, but when I used to play them loads, I would wake up in the morning, I would log into Boom Beach, I would gather all my monies and my resources, and I would upgrade the next thing if I could afford it. Or I would, send off for a little attack. And I would do that the first thing I woke up. I would do Boom Beach, and then I'd check my emails, and then I'd get up and have a shower.
And then you would take you take the hot water bottle off.
And I'd take the water bottle off of my crotch. So I would do that and fit that into my gaming cycle, my gaming diet, if you want to be pretentious about it. And I would also have it at the end of the day as well, before I went to bed. I'd be like, cool, Boom Beach, boom, done. Now, I'm not logging onto my console first thing in the morning. I'm not like blearily eyed, like getting up, going into the living room, turning on the PS4. But what I am doing is every time I boot up the PlayStation 4, because it's our DVD, it's essentially our DVD player, Blu-ray player, or whatever. It's the thing that we stream all of our content on. The first thing I do, log into Adventure Capitalist, get the funds, upgrade the next set of things, buy the next set of upgrades, do all that, do my pass on all of these things, then I turn it off. Then I might play Titanfall 2. Like, I completed Titanfall 2 in a day. So I played that for 6 hours, and then turned that off, and then logged on to Adventure Capitalist, and I'd acquired a whole bunch of money, because the game runs the game accumulates cash while you're not playing it. So again, you log back in, and there we are, 6 hours have passed, I've got a bunch more money, and I can do a bunch more upgrades. And it fits into that pattern really, really nicely. It takes me about 45 seconds to check everything, to get all of my money. I've got my Earth businesses. Spoilers, you unlock the moon, you unlock Mars, and you can have businesses there. I whip through those, and I do all my upgrades there.
Pete, can I ask, what businesses does one have on Mars?
You have things like escape pods. You have like alien visitor things. You have moon on Moon, for example. You have like moon dust. I think there's like a cheese factory or something like that. It's all very silly and tongue in cheek. And yeah, it's just fit in really, really well. And actually, because the inputs are really, really straightforward, it's just really quick to on the D-pad go up and down through all of these different UI options and upgrade the thing that you want. It's a really quick, nice little free-to-play hit that I really enjoy, and I do like. I love the music and I love the visuals, and it's all very chintzy and lovely, and and addictive, and I don't want to downplay that it is addiction that is a big part of why they're interesting from a design capacity. Now, Dan, I know that you'll be like, yeah, I love this game, I absolutely enjoying it, it's really great, I love it. Have you been playing it on like mobile or console or?
I've tried it because I've been playing it on just online, just on
browsers.
On browsers. I didn't know. I'd never heard of it before. I didn't know you could get it on phones and mobile devices. You mentioning that makes me want to download it because there is an element of I like seeing the numbers go up.
Yeah.
And what's actually quite annoying for me is because I do browser and it does kind of say go away, come back, and it will carry on doing it. But every time I go away for kind of power saving purposes, after like 5 minutes of inaction, my laptop goes into sleep mode, and so it stops.
Yep.
So then I turn it back on the next day, and I've only got 3 million. I'm like, but it's been on all night. But obviously it hasn't. Obviously it hasn't. My laptop's been in sleep, so nothing's happened because my laptop's not really on.
No. So it actually should tick up in the background. So if you play it on mobile, it will figure out how long it's been off and then upgrade it. So it's the same with the console version. Like, I think, Dan, that you should grab it on mobile or tablet or whatever it is that you want to do. The thing that you check relatively frequently, and grab it on console as well and see whether or not you like it.
But I turn on my console once a week.
Doesn't play
twice
anything.
a week.
It's just
hates games.
I just like to see the lights go on.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, grab it on mobile and see what you think of it, and like I say, work it into your schedule. Don't think of it as I'm going to actively play this game.
Oh no,
think of it as
it'll be like I had a similar thing with you, Boom Beach. So it'll be a similar same thing as that. I wouldn't look at it as a game I'll play. It'll be like as a game I'll check in with.
Yeah,
because I agree. I understand the kind of that compulsion, the enjoyment from. See, for me, it's like I've got it on my screen at the moment, and what I like to do is kind of for kind of consistency. I want because in the browser version there's 10 different businesses. I've got 9 of them. What I want is for them all to be at the same level, but obviously the higher they go, the longer it takes to get up to that level.
Yeah.
So it's going to take me a long time to get there, but I kind of I want them all to get to that level, and then I want them all to get up to the next level, so they go one by one to go through, and it's just really methodical kind of kind of
satisfying,
numbers-driven consistency.
Do you want to know where? Do you want to know where the next level of crack is?
Right, is that Jupiter?
It is. No, the next level of this, Dan. Get this. So the PlayStation 4 version has achievements.
Yeah.
No. You're like, oh yeah, but it gives you this goal, and there's things in there that would make you squirm a little bit and go, ooh. Like, for example, one of the achievements is get 666 of every single thing. And that's an achievement. So if you can get 666 of everything, they'll give you an achievement. Yeah. And it's like,
see, for me,
something to work towards.
See, for me, and that's actually an interesting point. For me, achievements have very rarely really pushed me to play a game. Only I think on like 1 or 2 occasions, and one in particular I can think of, where achievements have pushed me to play the game, and that game was Tearaway on the Vita. That was that's probably the only game that I've really got into and gone back into the game to really pursue the achievements. That was partly because I loved the game and it was such a beautiful game.
Of course, yeah.
But achievements, and both on PS4, Xbox 360, PS3. I've never been a particular much of an achievements hunter or anything like that.
Neither have I. But it just gives another layer of adds another layer of like, ooh, I could try and get 100 of everything, couldn't I? Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that's my next goal. I really love it. I think it's great. I think the Adventure Capitalist on PS4 is coming along quite nicely. It's a really good. It's not been out for a huge amount of time. The first release that's up there is pretty good. What I really want, and I think what will probably lead to my ultimate demise, is if they start adding in things like comparing your scores with friends.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like that at the moment, But if they start saying, oh, well, you could just bring in your PlayStation ID and this is how profitable Dan is right now, I think I would probably go mad. And I would definitely want
ironically,
to be
that would be more in keeping with capitalism, that idea of competition. I mean, I wonder what adventure socialists would look like.
I have got a massive recommendation for you both, and in fact for just people who generally like podcasts and stuff. I know we don't really do like podcast shout outs and stuff like that. Maybe we should. Is that a good way
We're
of
Not Wizards.
connecting with people? We're Not Wizards. Yeah, that's a good one. There you go. If you like podcasts, go listen to We're Not Wizards. They're a lovely bunch. And on the subject of wizardry, there is a fantastic podcast that I was recommended wholeheartedly by a listener to Staying In. So they got in touch with me on Twitter, and they were like, and this is actually, fun enough, on the subject of clickers, this is somebody who has made some excellent clickers in their past. The chap is called Clive Gorman, and I've played a whole bunch of Clive's games previously, and he said, "Oh, Peter, I think I'm going to recommend to you a thing called Hello from the Magic Tavern."
What's that about?
And I was like, okay, but recommending podcasts is quite a personal thing. And I'm always like, okay, like whenever people recommend it, I'm like, I don't know if I want to put the time in to find this out, but I like Clive's stuff, so I was like, okay, well, I trust you, Clive. Hello from the Magic Tavern is absolutely hilarious. It's this comedy podcast where it's all improv, basically, where this guy's like travelled through a portal and he's getting this weak Wi-Fi signal, but he's gone through this portal to another world, to the world of Foon. And it's this like medieval fantasy world, and so from the Magic Tavern, he interviews people who are in this magical world. But he's from Chicago, like he fell through into this portal through the back of a Burger King, and he's getting this Wi-Fi signal in. So he does this a weekly podcast that tells people all about Foon and what's going on, and it's very, very Dungeons and Dragons. Like it is very. This is a fantasy world, and there's a changeling. I'm on the first 3 episodes at the moment. There's a changeling, there's a pot plant who can talk, there is a wizard who's on this epic quest to defeat the Dark Lord, and they're all basically just having conversations about what's going on in this world. And then there's a lot of modernisms as well. So for example, there's a lot of talk about things that are sort of like modern events, current events, and kind of pastiching how our world works through how a fantasy world works, and why a fantasy world seems to make a little bit more sense than our world. Anyway, we've played the absolutely fantastic Dread before, and I know that we've done a little bit of that role playing stuff. And I think with that improv and comedy and stuff, I really think both of you would really, really get a lot out of it. It's Hello from the Magic Tavern. I'm a few episodes in, and definitely worth checking out.
Oh well, check that out, because I'm doing the next Dread for us, which is quite soon actually. So I went to see Sam at the weekend, as I said, and he's very kindly lent me the Dread Bible that you had previously bestowed upon him, Daniel.
Yes, it's working its way around the group.
Because I'm slightly...
Well, it will never get to me, because I will never ever write one, because I have no creativity.
Says the man who's made a game twice in 48 hours.
Can I write a sufficiently good one from the book, or just while I've got you here, any good resources I can go to help me, to give me advice on how to construct one of these things? Because I've never hosted anything like this before.
Well, because I did the first one, so I kind of came at it from a complete novice level. I'd seen, actually, I'll tell you what, in Dread, it does include 3 stories. It does include 3 stories. So we've not used them in terms of our group. I first discovered it through the YouTube show Tabletop with Will Wheaton. They played Dread. I think it might have been season 3 of that, or was it season 2?
I can't remember. It was a 2-parter, though. I remember.
Yeah, so they played that, and they played one of the stories from the book in that. When I was doing it, I read the book, but I read it more in terms of how to kind of run a game and kind of tips on how to do it, rather than go through your traditional Dungeons and Dragons. It does kind of treat it a little bit differently because it's a bit more flexible the way it kind of works, because it's built around a Jenga tower. But what I had was basically just came up with an idea in my head, and it was a very basic idea. It wasn't even the full story. It was there was one element of the story that I wanted to put in place. So I had that idea, and then I kind of just built around that. So I think what started off for me, I wanted there to be a situation where between the three of you, one of you would have to choose to save one of the other two, and then that decision would then come around, and whoever you didn't choose wouldn't have died, but that decision would have then come around, so that person then had the opportunity to save the original person. That was in my thinking. So I had that idea of, okay, what scenario could that work in? And I came with an idea of being on a spaceship and stuff like that, and there being aliens. And so I just built then around that, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually I didn't even use that original idea. That original idea didn't make it into the final story, because it just didn't, I couldn't get it to work without splitting everyone up, which I didn't really want to do. So that's how I did it. I had a single kind of image that I had, and then thought, okay, then this is what I want to do. How can I get them to that point? Okay, so I do this. Okay, well, how do I get to that point? And then built it up. And then there were certain ideas, like I wanted none of you guys to have known each other. So I needed to come up with a narrative reason why you didn't know each other, which built into the story. And so eventually all the pieces started to click together. And then in terms of the book was much more about actually structuring it and what do I need to know in order to do this, as opposed to a cheat sheet. Because I think once you understand the concepts of what you're trying to do, if you know the story well enough, you can just run with it. But I'll say the same thing as I said to Sam when he did it. Don't try and plan for what we are going to do, because immediately we will do things that you haven't planned for. It happened to me. It happened to me, and it happened to Sam. Sam said that he kind of, looking back on it, he tried too much to try and cater for every eventuality, when in the first 4 seconds all three of us went off piste compared to what he planned. I mean, Pete just started punching people for no reason. So that's what I'd say is
it's a way through the game, right? I mean, it's a way to solve all issues.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bold move. I can't say it will work for every scenario, but I mean, Dan raises a very interesting point there. He's given us a scenario there where, he had to, he would put us in a situation where one of us had to choose to save either one or the other. Peter, if it's a situation, Dan and I are hanging from a cliff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an ice cliff. Maybe it's in Manchester.
Sure.
Which one of us would you save?
I would save.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
In my possession, I'm holding in my arms, your rabbit taco.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to sway your answer at all.
Well, it's also going to loosen your grip on the ball, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, you're an idiot if you've taken taco up there. He'd be furious.
But Pete, before you answer, whose face has been keeping your crotch warm these last few years?
Well,
Darren, I can't fight that.
Here's my thing. I would make a very logical decision here, and I would save Dan. Now, the reason, Chris, is not because I don't love you, but the reason is because first of all, look at his little young face.
Yeah,
he's barely 4 years old.
I have so much to see in this world.
But also, Dan is the most likely to hurt himself while hanging from the cliff. Whereas, Chris, I'm pretty sure you've got infinite stamina mode
I do, but it's good.
So you'll be fine. Basically, I could just leave you there. I'd be like, right, I'm going off, having a little nap. Maybe a quick spot of dinner. I'll come back and rescue you later. You'll probably have climbed back up again by that point. So I think basically because of Dan's general level of incompetence, I would save Dan, and then Chris, you'd be all right.
Yes, cool. I fully agree.
Yeah,
I'll go with that.
All right, good.
I've taken my first steps and foray into the world of Dungeons & Dragons.
Oh, my goodness me.
What?
That is, I think, a sentence I never thought I would hear you say.
Yeah.
So, Dan, you took on, D&D. What, were you hosting it, or were you just
No, I wasn't hosting it. Me and a group of friends, including a friend of the show, Duncan Malloy from Osprey Games,
yes.
kind of got together, and then the one guy was hosting it, and it was it's taken from I think Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, and kind of quite short notice, I kind of threw together a character which, having worked on the backstory, I've basically created Frodo Baggins. I've created Theodore Highhill, who is a halfling rogue, who's been disowned by his family and has fallen into a life of crime, but wants to get out of it.
Okay.
And so we've started running this. I mean, it's helped a lot of us. Well, kind of all at the moment, it's 3 players and then the DM, but I think there's some other guys going to join as well. And I think we've all listened to the Adventure Zone podcast, which is again like a comedy Dungeons and Dragons podcast done by the guys who do My Brother and Me, which is a podcast by 3 McElroy brothers, kind of 3 American guys, which is great fun, and it's a really good kind of entry point into what Dungeons and Dragons is in terms of just the fun side. It doesn't have to get really down and dirty with rules. You can play fast and loose. It's about having fun with the characters and improvisation, and that's what I really quite like. That's what I liked about Dread, and I quite like about Dungeons and Dragons. It's that element of improvisation and creativity. It's that having to think of something on the spot and just having to run with it. It's difficult. I find it difficult, but I also find it really, really fun. In the short amount of play we've played so far, we had what should have been a nice, quick and easy fight, which turned into some kind of bloodbath. But Peter, was as if you were there. It went that violent, that fast.
Yeah. Sure.
So we had a bit of a fight. We did a bit of exploring, and then kind of by the end of it, the narrative had just started to kick in. The more overarching story has started to kick in. But I'm really enjoying it, and kind of enjoying coming up with a character with a backstory and what it all means and all that stuff. But it's really good. You guys, Pete, I think you've played a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, is that correct?
Yeah, I've played a little. Well, I've not played... Oh, no, I have played a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, yeah. Played a little bit of that. I've mostly played other things that are kind of based on pen and paper RPG systems, so I've played the Cthulhu Mythos, one of the famous Cthulhu Mythos ones, called Delta Green, which is excellent. I think I played something else as well. But yes, I'm quite familiar with that sort of stuff.
Is it, Chris? Is that something that you've? I know, obviously, we've done some Dread. Has kind of the more kind of dice roll based areas of Dungeons and Dragons ever been something you've been interested in?
Do you know what? It didn't until we played Dread. It was something that was quite impenetrable for me. I didn't see a way into it. It just seemed quite complicated. And we talked about this last time in the show when we were talking about gateway games, really. And Dread is very much a good gateway game for something like a pen and paper RPG. And actually, I would really be intrigued by this because it actually draws from a lot of the kind of experiences we accrued when we were at uni doing a drama degree. Things like improvisation, creativity, thinking on your feet, narrative theory, those kind of things, and a bit of game theory and play thrown into the mix. It makes this really kind of rich and vibrant kind of soup of ideas, really. And you kind of want to just... Sorry, I've got croutons on the brain ever since Pete planted that there earlier.
I love croutons.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with it. I'd love to do something like that. Once we've all done the round of Dread, and once Pete at long last presents his very stripped back minimal Dread, one act, it'll probably be set in the room that we'll actually be playing it in. About 4 people playing Jenga. Once he's done
great,
that,
actually.
I think we'll go on to the next level. I would love to do some kind of D&D campaign. That'd be brilliant fun.
Pete, you look super excited at that prospect.
No, I just don't like the idea. I love the idea of doing a D&D campaign, like a pre-written D&D campaign. Yeah. That's absolutely fine. But the concept of me even tackling something like Dread is just, oh my god, it fills me with dread.
All right.
No, dread.
I
don't know what Split is.
I will tell you what Split is.
Is this the mobile game, Chris?
Is
this Split the mobile game? The lovely mobile game that's been getting so much attention and praise?
No, it's not Split the mobile game that's been getting so much attention and praise. It is a film that I saw at cinema at the weekend. It's a new M. Night Shyamalan film.
Shyamalan.
Yeah, I am a big defender of Mr. Shyamalan.
Really?
Even
Yes, I am.
through the last Airbender years.
I didn't see that. Probably why.
What about Lady
I
in the
managed
Water? Where he
Yeah, I like that. I like Lady in the Water.
where he wrote a part for himself as a really obnoxious film critic who was killed.
Well, he wasn't the film critic in it, but yeah, he wrote a part for.
Oh,
a
sorry,
film
I thought he was the
critic,
film critic in it.
played by the great Bob Balaban. No, I like Lady in the Water. It had a great cast: Bryce Dallas Howard, Paul Giamatti. Great film. Yeah, I even like The Happening, except that I didn't really like Mark Wahlberg's performance in it, and it was set in a lovely kind of sunshine state of Philadelphia, which is where all his films are set, with the exception of The Last Airbender, which wouldn't have worked really well fitted in to Philadelphia. But no, so I watched Split, and over the last few years, Shyamalan's had a bit of return to form with the kind of horror genre. He did The Visit a couple of years back, which got quite good reviews. And Peter, Split is essentially, it's about 3 girls that are kidnapped by this mysterious man and are kind of imprisoned in a basement. And it turns out that their guard is that, well, the people guarding them are actually all one person. And
Right.
it's the great actor James McAvoy in the role, who plays 23 different people. He has 23 split personality kind of identities. He's got dissociative identity disorder, DID. I don't know to what extent Shyamalan researched into that particular condition and to what extent that is based on any kind of neurological research. So there's a kind of a whiff of supernatural about it. And basically, the 23 identities interact with the 3 girls. And they try to get them to play themselves off against each other because each identity is not aware of what they've told the previous one. And James McAvoy delivers this incredible performance. It's a tour de force performance. And so does the lead actor, one of the girls who's kidnapped, Anya Taylor-Joy. She's absolutely fantastic. And Shyamalan makes a cameo down as he does in all his films. And it's about these 23 identities preparing the girls for the appearance of the mysterious 24th identity. They're waiting for the 24th identity to arrive. It's about it comes to a head, and it has an ending which I did not see coming whatsoever.
What a twist!
I suggest you ignore. Listen, if you've not seen Split, and you're a bit like me, you want to defend Mr. Shyamalan, and you would like to have the experience of watching a Shyamalan film in 2017, a new one, preserved intact, remaining intact, I suggest you do not read anything in the news about it. Just watch the film.
Do you basically go into every Shyamalan movie wondering whether or not there's going to be a twist? Because I would.
He's kind of become famous. I mean, there wasn't a twist in Lady in the Water. There wasn't a twist in. I don't think there was a twist in The Last Airbender.
Was that in it? Was that in itself a twist? That there wasn't a twist.
I mean, the famous one is The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
Great film, very good film. I loved Unbreakable as well. Unbreakable's a very good film.
Well, don't spoil it for me.
I'm not going to spoil the films or the twist. I'm just saying the films I liked of his.
All right. I'm not going to watch it. But...
I think, yeah, Dan. I recommend you watch Split. It's a slow burn. It's his longest film to date, and he says it's the long thing that.
I don't think I'm going to see it at the cinema. I may well catch it when it heads to the small screen.
Ooh, that's an interesting definition, isn't it? Like, we were going to go and see the Assassin's Creed movie, and then we saw the reviews, and we were like, let's wait until that's on Netflix.
Well, there's a difference, you see. There are certain things I will go and see at the cinema, even if I think this film's going to be kind of amazing, I will want to see it at the cinema. There will be films that I don't think necessarily going to be amazing, but something like Assassin's Creed, I may be more inclined because I think, you know what? On that big screen, it's going to be an experience. I'm going to get something from it being on a big screen. I think something like it's not so much low budget, but kind of a more intimate story. The big screen aspect isn't going to give me a lot in terms of, obviously, I love going to cinema. I love this experience of being in the cinema, but cinema's expensive. So if I'm going to go, I want to go there for a film that I'm going to have a better experience from being in the cinema to have seen it. A small, intimate film, I can have a great experience on a small screen at home because I can watch that in the comfort of my own home and I can invest in it. Whereas Star Wars, I want to see that at the cinema because it's huge, it's bombastic, it's loud, it's crash, bang, wallop. It's brilliant on a cinema screen, and I'll get a lot more from it, like from there, than I would at home. And that's why I would kind of make that distinction in terms of decisions on how I watch a film.
I was around at Sam's today and just sat on a sofa, and I got to the point where like I realised actually that we've known each other quite a while, because we don't even have to say that much to each other, and we just start randomly laughing. There was a period where we were just doing those stupid jokes, like, what do you call a person, da-da-da-da-da? And, like, things like, what do you call, Sam said, what do you call a man between two buildings?
What do you call a man between two buildings?
Ali?
Oh, fucking hell, Chris.
I think
he said it, not me.
I think you had to be there.
Yeah, I know, but you're relaying it and forcing it on other people.
All right. I did find a good one.
You're making the distinction that it was funny and is worthy of telling other people.
Oh no, I found it hilarious. Well, okay, right. New one I found the other day, because there's loads of them.
Yeah.
Like, what do you call a woman?
Is it as good as? Yeah, go on.
What do you call a woman? Oh, this is one I used to say when I was a kid. What do you call a woman who can balance 3 pints of lager on her head?
Tracy.
I don't know.
Tracy.
Beatrix. All right, okay. My favourite one. I saw
Here
this
we
the
go.
other day.
Third time lucky.
This one.
Go on.
This genuinely made me laugh. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
No, I don't think
No.
I am.
All right, I'll give you a second. What do you call a man with no shins?
I don't know.
Tony.
Right, wrap this up. If we could sort of turn my feeling towards what that was, it would just be...
Dan, I've got a horrible feeling that he's going to be turning the hot water bottle the other way around today. That was Staying In with Dan Frost, Peter Willington and myself, Chris Darby. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to the comics, movies, games and more covered in this episode. And come find us on Twitter @StayingInPod. Thanks for listening.